Those who oppose my nomination imply that I am loyal to something or someone other than God, my own conscience, and the Constitution of the United States, accusing me of being Trump's puppet, Putin's puppet, Assad's puppet, a guru's puppet, Modi's puppet, not recognizing the absurdity of simultaneously being the puppet of 5 different puppet masters. The same tactic was used against President Trump and failed. The American people elected President Trump with a decisive victory and mandate for change. The fact is, what truly unsettles my political opponents is I refuse to be their puppet.
They always find a way to call you, the patriotic citizen, an enemy of the state. And why do they do this? Of course, you know why. It's to justify using state power against you. A tale as old as communist time. Joining me now, founder of Blackwater, Navy SEAL, host of Off the Leash, Eric Prince. Eric, for some reason, they always find a way to call guys like you, call Tulsi Gabbard traitors. Of course, every single time it is what they do, and we'll see how successful it is.
Yeah, they seem to, they love to throw that pejorative around, and those are the people that have usually done the least to actually defend the Republic. And they are scoundrels and disgusting for doing it. And I really hope Tulsi gets confirmed. It'd be a huge injustice. I mean, as a Army officer, having to live with the failures of multiple layers of intelligence for as much as we spend, the whole place is a mess. It is a swamp. It is desperately in need of cleanup. And the amount of nonsense and incompetence that is hidden behind overclassification is really disgusting. That is a national scandal. And it must, I mean, literally all parts of the government must actually be reined in and accountable to the people and to the elected representatives that are elected to oversee it. And the real constitutional crisis is that you have a bureaucracy that has funded with a black budget that gets no real transparency of how the money is spent and what has gone on, with rubber stamp bureaucrats in Congress that are letting it go. So I'm not surprised that the deep state so viciously opposes Tulsi. I hope that the Republican line holds. They damn well better, because the DNI, the intelligence community, requires adult leadership, because we haven't had it.
Talk about this budgetary process a bit, because you're right. They should have oversight, right? I mean, these people, even people in the intelligence community, have to answer to civilian oversight, but they never do. It's always, well, I can't comment. Well, it's classified. So how do they get all their money?
Well, there's a black budget appropriations process. Obviously, you know, you don't necessarily want to transmit to the entire world what you're spending on defense or in intelligence matters, but it also allows for an enormous amount of nonsense and shenanigans, which has been ongoing now for decades. And Tulsi is right to call nonsense on it. And reform is needed, just like we've seen across the board, with an out-of-control DOJ, with a Defense Department that is focusing on a lot of the wrong things instead of actually delivering excellence and lethality and merit. So it's wrong on so many levels.
Can you explain what happened to our intelligence agency? So I'm very familiar with, you know, how all this began, OSS, all this stuff, but it really seems to have turned inward pretty quickly. What happened?
One of the key problems is that we have the same amount of case officers, for example, at CIA, now that we did in the early 1980s, a couple thousand. The problem is you've added tens of thousands of administrative, analyst, and contracted positions doing all kinds of administrative nonsense on top of that. So your administrative staff is basically blown up by almost 30-fold. And that allows all kinds of people to misquote, misdirect, and to just do lots of malign things. And on top of that, after 9/11, the DNI was created. And I wouldn't say, again, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I'd say the forming of DNI was a well-intended thing to try to create a fusion of analysis across all these different intelligence branches. But really what it means is that all 17 or 18 branches of the intelligence community have their own analysts, all kind of making their own product. And it makes for a very disparate and fractured and unnecessarily expensive and ineffective end product, right? Because the whole idea of the intelligence community is to collect not publicly available information, analyze it, and to predict what the intent and the means are of opponents, whether that's terrorism, nation states, cartels, whatever that might be. And we basically have a blob upon blob that hides behind classification. It hides their incompetence and inability to get a job done.
Kash Patel went toe-to-toe with Dick Durbin today. I enjoyed it greatly, as I'm sure you did. Here was a bit of it.
So do you think that America is safer because these 1,600 people have been given an opportunity to come out of serving their sentences and live in our communities again?
Senator, I have not looked at all 1,600 individual cases. I have always advocated for imprisoning those that cause harm to our law enforcement and civilian communities. I also believe America is not safer because President Biden's commutation of a man who murdered 2 FBI agents.
My question to you, though, is do you think America is safer because President Trump issued these pardons to 1,600 of these criminal defendants, many of whom violently assaulted our police in the Capitol?
Senator, America will be safe when we don't have 200,000 drug overdoses in 2 years. America will be safe when we don't have 50 homicides in a day.
So you just won't answer the question.
I'm
going to say,
here.
I don't think we're safer. Matthew Huddle was sent back to Indiana.
Eric, why are they still so up in arms about January 6th and those prisoners? What is it about this thing they can't let go?
Look, it's better for a guilty man to walk free than for innocent people to be incarcerated. And the amount of January 6 people that were locked up unnecessarily and treated horribly by the justice system, by some people being in solitary for the last 3.5 years, still awaiting trial, is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, it is. All right, before I let you go, are you concerned about our Navy? I hear from people who know, experts who know, they're concerned about, as much as it pains me to admit, the most important branch we have, that is the most important branch, and they're concerned about what's happened to it. Are you concerned?
Yes, the Navy has definitely gone askew. This latest disaster of actually shooting down their own airplane while it was on final approach, landing back in the Red Sea, is really a disaster. And the fact that, but they actually had launched missiles on the second, I think the guy that avoided actually had to go to burner to get away down on the deck. It is a massive, cataclysmic, multi-layer screw up, and you just can't let that to continue. And it must be can't let that go unanswered. There's got to be accountability, and I hope the new SecNav is approved soon. And I hope Pete Hegseth looks very hard at cleaning out the wardroom of a lot of deadwood admirals.
I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.